Guys, in this video we can see how to develop Flutter application with the SQLite database for persistent storage. So what does mean by persistent storage? Means we can store the data permanently on the mobile device, and when you later we can restore also. We can read and we can search, we can manage the data. Even if you close the application or if you restart the mobile phone, the data will be persistence. So persistence in this meaning is permanent storage. Okay. So here we are going to practice a simple example how to store student details like name, race number, CGPA details. We are with the SQLite database, and we are going to see how to retrieve. Right. So this is a application we are going to practice. So here we are going to design this particular and Flutter UI design to collect name, race number, and CGPA. When you click the button save details, it will be saved, and after saving the details, we can retrieve all the data and we can populate as a list view. Right. So let's begin with the steps. So first we need an Android mobile device or an Android virtual device. Okay. So the step is first we need to install Android Studio, and once you install Android Studio, will be getting a virtual device we can create. Okay. So we can start the virtual device, or we can connect the real Android device. Okay, for these both option, we need Android Studio. We need this Android Studio software. Okay, so it is very simple. We have to we can Google Android Studio, and you'll be getting the website developer.android.com, and here you can download the latest Android Studio, and you have to install this. Once you install, we can start the Android Studio. Right, so when you start Android Studio, you will be getting this particular window, and here you can see there is a 3 more actions. Right, so here you can click, and there is a virtual device manager. You can select virtual device manager. So currently I'm having a 3 virtual device. So if it is not there, you have to create. Just you have to click create virtual device, and you have to select the mobile phone type and the configuration, and you can the virtual devices will be created. Okay, so now once it is ready, we can start the virtual device. So now it's starting. Okay, so it is actually starting, and now you will be getting a virtual device like this, and you can resize how much you want, and you can keep it in the right side. Okay, so for for testing the program. So SQLite database only works in mobile device, not in Google Chrome or any other thing. Okay, right. So once it is started, we can close this, and now the next process is we have to create the project. Okay, so let's open the VS Code software, create the project, select new project, select application type, select the folder, and here we are going to create student management application. Okay, so you can give the title, press enter. The application is created, the project is created. Now in this project, first thing is we have to go to this public there is a file called YAML file. So you can just open this file. So in this YAML file, we are going to install the dependency libraries for SQLite database. Okay, so we need to install 2 libraries. First one is SQLite F means Flutter Lite library 2.3.0. Then in order to store the database in a particular location, we need a path provider library also. Path provider will help you to store the database in a specific folder. Okay, so SQLite database is a lightweight, self-contained, serverless database. Okay, it will be stored in a single file. Look at this single file in your mobile device. Okay, just SQL, for example, students.db. So this is a database. So it is not, there is no need of server. Okay, it's a local database that only runs in mobile devices like Android device, iOS device, and all. Okay, right. So we need this dependency. So this dependency we can install. Go to this YAML file and go to this dependency, and here we have to use this these versions, these particular libraries. Just copy paste, and you can also include this path provider, right? So these are the two libraries we need, and make sure that you are having internet connection. So this will download the library and it will install in your project. Okay, SQLite, F means Flutter. Okay, so light library and path provider. Okay, so now we have to save the program. Okay, so when you save the program, it start downloading the library and the library is installed properly, and you can close this YAML file. And now let's go to this library folder. Let's see the main dot. So here only we are going to design the interface. So you can delete this particular interface, you can delete. Okay, right. So the next step is, so we are going to see the next step is we have to first create the data model for storing the data model. Okay, so I'm going to store student data, for example student information such as name, register number and CGPA. Okay, so now this data we can model as a class. Okay, we can model as a class, for example like this. Okay, class student and this particular ID and variables and constructor function, and additionally we need one factory function to convert the database row as a student object. So this particular function from row, it will map every student record in an object format. Okay, so this function we have to include. Okay, so this file we can store in a student.dart. Okay, so we can create for example we can create a new file called student.dart. So here we are going to create the student class, and inside student class first we need a primary key. So primary key should be a ID, it is auto incremented, so we need a data type called int square, then we can give a question mark. The primary key cannot be a null, so we have to ensure that it's not null value, and we can use this, and followed by other data like name, and we can store the register number also in a name, for example URK20CS and all. It's like register number is string, right? And CGPA we can use double CGPA. Okay, like this, right? So now we have to initialize this data using a constructor function. We have to initialize. So this dot ID, and it is not required, and we can also use required attribute is name. Okay, name is required, so we can use required. Similarly required is needed for register number followed by CGPA, right? So now it's done. So now we have to create one, we need to create this particular function. Okay, this particular factory function for storing, for converting the database data in a object format. Okay, so we need this particular function. Okay, that's called student.fromRow function. Okay, right. So now we have, okay, this dot ID, so everything is ready, right? Okay, so we have this data. Now we can create a factory method, student.fromRow. Okay, so we have to use map function. So map function is actually every data is map formats. We can use string as a key. The column name is a string, and the data can be dynamic, so it can be any data, right? And row, every row we have to take, and we have to map with the object. So we have to return as a student object. And where we have to initialize every field. For example, ID, how will you access? From this row we have to access the ID. Okay, so we have to access the ID from the row, and we have to store name also. So name we can store like this. From the row, the column name is name. Similarly for the register number, row register number we can use. Then last one is CGPA also we can initialize by, from this row we can map to student object data. Okay, right? So now this will return a student object like this. Okay, so now there is a one small mistake. So every constructor function should ends with semicolon. Okay, so every constructor function should ends with semicolon, right? Right. So now this is done. This is a data model we need to create. So the next step is we have to go for the next step is we need to build database connection helper. Okay, so we are going to create a database and we are going to store student details. So we need to create database table, and we need some functions to insert, delete, update, and so many other SQL operations. Okay, so for that we need to create a separate helper class. Okay, so that helper class you can create as a separate file, and inside helper class we have to implement database instance. We have to create database table, and we have to write the code for creating database table and insert all these operations. Okay, so for that first we have to create a separate file and we have to import all these packages. Okay, right. So let's go back this, create a new file called database helper dot. Okay, so you'll get a class. So here first thing is we have to import all these packages. Okay, so first we need to import all these packages, and along with that this newly created student class also we have to import. Okay, so we can use student dot. Okay, now we have to create a database helper class. Okay, so we can create inside. We are going to do few things. The first thing is we are going to create database instance. Okay, instances. So for that first we need to create a variable called static database variable, and it cannot be null. It cannot be null. So we have to create one variable like this. Okay, so this is a database variable, and it must be a static variable because we need a single memory for the database. Only one memory is needed. The next we are going to create a reference for this database using database helper. So that using this database helper reference, that is called instance. Okay, instance. So in this instance what we are going to do is we are going to create a database helper object, but make sure that we need to create only one reference, single object. We need to create only single object. For that we are going to use private constructor concept. Okay, we are going to use a private constructor concept dot underscore private constructor. Okay, we have to use a private constructor function. Right, so we have a private constructor. Next, this private constructor we need to call. Okay, so underscore private constructor function we have to call. Okay, so this private constructor function ensure that there will be only single database will be created for this particular application. Okay, so otherwise we will be having duplication. Okay, so in order to ensure single database we need to create instance like this. Okay, so next is followed by we need to create a database. We have to create database. So for that, for creating database there is a function we have to implement. Like that function is look like this. Okay, creating a database. The database operations in Flutter in mobile application, here we are going to implement all the database operations using asynchronous request response handling, asynchronous. Okay, so maybe database creation and all may takes time, right? So it will use background threading, right? So for that we will be using async and await. Okay, these two keywords for requesting. Okay, so there is a function called get database function. So we have to use it returns the database format called future. Future means like the database object will be coming at any time. Okay, when you request, maybe it may comes immediately or it may comes after few seconds. Okay, so that future is a data object model. It can handle that type of dynamic object reference. Okay, you got it. So here we are going to implement get database is a function, and this must be called asynchronously like this. Okay, now first we are going to check if the database is already created or not. For that we are going to check this, is it if it is not null, we can return that particular database. Okay, because database we are going to create only once, right? So we cannot create every time the database database file. Okay, so for that here we have to use this exclamation. Sometimes it may be null. Okay, so we have to use that. Okay, so now here if it is not null, if it is not created already, we have to return the database. Otherwise we have to create. Okay, we have to create database. Okay, so for creation, first we need to set the path where you want to create the database. Okay, so for that only this particular code. Okay, so directory dir await application documents directory. Okay, so this particular line will help you to prepare the path. So this path we have to it will get the application documents directory where the database can be created. So it will provide a safe directory to store the database. Okay, so now we have to create a path for storing the database. Okay, so path is nothing but this particular directory plus a file name for storing the database. Our file name is students.db. Okay, so the join function is used to just connect these two things. Okay, the directory path and along with this particular file. So now the path is ready. Now we can create the database by calling a function. Okay, so for that we have to use open database function. Okay, so we have to take the instance database equal to we have to use await. Await is used to make the call asynchronous. Okay, so we have to use open database function. So inside open database function, just we have to pass the path first. Okay, this particular path we have to pass, and we have to mention the version name also. Version is 1. So the first version of the database is 1. The next is we are going to call a callback function. Callback function means after creating the database what we have to do. Okay, so after creating database we are supposed to create a table. Okay, we are supposed to create a table. So for that we are going to call another function, another asynchronous communication for creating table. Okay, so for that we need a db and the version. Okay, to create table. Okay, now we have to make this call asynchronous. So that is a recommended way of making calls, and this on create function we have to call. And one more thing here, actually this open database function we have to end with semicolon. Okay, right? So now here in on create function we are going to create the table. So to create a table, first we need to create a SQL query. So create table students ID like this. Okay, then we have to call execute functions. Okay, so this particular line is useful for creating the table. Okay, so it's very easy, right? So first we need to construct the query, SQL query for this. Let's open it in a full screen. First create table students, and these are the columns. Okay, ID is a primary key, integer data type, auto increment, name is a text data type, register number is also text, and here register number should be equal to this class variables. Look at this, name, register numbers should match. Okay, so here we have to actually these are actually columns. Okay, these are columns and this is primary key. Okay, so you have to understand this is primary key, and remaining all actually columns of like columns in the table. Okay, so now this execute function create the table. Okay, so it will create the table by using this SQL query. Okay, once it's created, this database is done, and we can return this database. We can return the database created, right? So when you return, you have to always use exclamation mark. Okay, so why exclamation mark is used is sometimes a database may not be created, and it may be null, right? So this exclamation mark automatically check whether this particular database is created or not. Okay, so if it is created only, it will send the object. Okay, so this is the second step we need to follow. Like what's the step is, we can create database helper class for SQLite operation, and here we are doing create database completed, create tables also completed. Next we can do operations, inserting, reading, updation, all these operations we can perform. Okay, so let's see how to insert data. So for insert data we have to use this logic. Okay, so we have to get the instance of the database and call insert function. Okay, it's very simple. And here also you will be getting a future reference, future, but the data return value is an the row ID. Okay, which row is inserted, that is a return statement. Okay, so you'll be getting. Okay, so now we are going to write the logic for inserting records. Okay, so insert student record, insert student records. So for that, first is future, and the return value is a integer type. Okay, and here we are going to write the function insert. Okay, that's same thing. Okay, like you can follow that, insert student. Now when you are inserting, we are going to pass the object in a student object format. Okay, and this function should be asynchronous call. Okay, and now inside we need a instance to insert. Okay, so how will you get the instance? Database reference, we can create a database db equal to we can get the reference like this, await and instance. Okay, you can use instance dot database. Okay, you'll get the database reference. Now using this we can insert. Okay, so you have to use db dot insert, and inside first we need to give the table name. Table name is students. Okay, table name is students, and the values you have to pass. Okay, so how will you pass values? You have to pass values using a object format like this. Okay, curly brace and key value pairs. Okay, so we have to use like this, and inside we can give every column name like this. Name I want to insert. Okay, so we can use a student dot name. Okay, and similarly we can use register number as a second column, and we can get the register number from this student object. Okay, student dot register number, right? Then followed by student, we are going to store another data called CGPA. Okay, so we are going to CGPA student dot CGPA, right? So this is about how to register. Okay, and this particular function call also you have to call await. Okay, so we have to call await, and this function should return an integer. Okay, so we have to attach return. Okay, so return await db insert and the table name. So this is a table name, and followed by the data. The data we have to pass as an object. Okay, name colon, and from this student object take every value, and you have to properly map. Okay, so it is actually not object format, it's called map format. Okay, right? So here I'll write the format. Table is the first parameter, table name, comma, map object. Okay, map object, right? So this is a map object. Okay, so this is for inserting. Okay, similarly we can write code for retrieve all the records. Okay, fetch all record, all students. Okay, fetching is nothing but reading. Okay, fetch, or we can say that read. Okay, so read all student data. Okay, so for reading we can create, similarly we can create a future reference. Inside future reference, all the records will be getting as a list kind of data structure. So we have to use a list of student. Okay, list, but the type is student. Okay, so we can create one function. Okay, so read all students. Okay, the function name is read all students, and this also should be asynchronous function call. Okay, so here also we need this particular reference, right? So we need the reference similarly. Okay, now using this reference we can get all the records we can able to access. You have to use db dot, there is a function called query. Inside function we have to say that students, okay, so the table name, okay. So we have to use query function to retrieve all the records from which table. The table name is students, okay. So here the table name is, okay, table name is students, right. So query function is used for retrieving all the records from the SQLite table, okay. So once it is written, we can return this particular record. How will you return? Okay, from this records we have to map every record as a student object. So for that we are going to use this this particular student dot from row function. Already we have created inside student class, right? So that function we are going to use, okay. We are going to use that function. And how will you use the records dot map, okay. We have to use records dot map, sorry, records dot map function. Inside every record you have to take, every record or every row, we can use lambda expression. You are going to map like this, student dot from row, okay. We are going to pass that particular record, okay, pass the particular record to this function, okay, record, okay, to this function. So here you will get the row and everything is converted as a student object here. All the data is actually copied to this particular constructor, student constructor, id, name, raise number, and it will call this constructor and the object is ready, okay. And finally the complete list you can convert as the complete data, you can convert as a list format, okay. So you'll be getting the complete data is list format, okay. So here there is one small mistake. So since we are using async, okay, we have to call this function using await, okay. So this particular db query function we have to call using await. We have to make it asynchronous so that application, the main UI will not be hang or crash, okay, right. So we need to use await, okay. So this function is used for reading all the records from the database, okay. So we have created database using this get database async function, and we created a function to insert student. Also we have included a function to retrieve all the students, okay. So like this we can have other functionalities like searching, other operations, right, as we mentioned. We can update, delete, all other operations, okay. So in this exercise we are going to just store and retrieve and display, okay. So once it is done, the final step is we have to create a Flutter UI design, and we have to call this database helper function to insert and read, okay. We have to just call the insert function as well as read function to perform that, okay. So next we are going to create the interface. So let's go to the main.dart program. So here we are going to create an interface. So interface code is already I have written here. So we can use this. We are going to create a stateful widget, okay. So we are going to use this students app. So if you have any doubt in this creating interface stateful widget, you can refer the previous video, right. So here we are going to use a stateful widget, and in this stateful widget we are going to create text box like this. Look at this, enter student name using text form field, and as per the previous video you can refer, okay. So here we have a interface. We are collecting, enter the student name and raise number and CGPA, and we have a there is a comma is missing. So we have a elevated button, okay. So now look at this, when I click this save details function, I have to store the data, okay. So now the database helper function is ready for inserting student records, okay. So this function we need to call, okay. We have to call when you click the button, okay. So from the interface, okay, right, just close this, right. So we have an elevated button. So in the elevated button there is a on pressed is there, right, on press, okay, right. So here we are going to make this on pressed as async. So this is not done already. So we have to make this function async, okay, and here only we are going to store it, okay. So let us run this program in save the program, and how to run, that is very important. Already we are having this mobile virtual devices running, right? So this, let's keep it in the right side, and let's select the first we need to select the device, okay. First we need to select the device. So for that you just click here and look at this. Usually we will be selecting Google Chrome. So since we are using SQLite database, we have to select this particular mobile virtual device, okay. So now we have linked the stateful widget student app, and here we are creating this no, not like this. So there is a small mistake. So here we are starting from scaffold, right? So we have to create a material app is missing. So we have to create material app, and inside material app we have to give title for this application, student information management. So this is the app title, and we have to use home button. So in this home home option only, we are going to create this stateful widget. We are going to link students app, okay. So this is just this is a stateful widget which provides name, which provides form for collecting input, okay. So hope you can understand, okay, right. So this done, just we can check, okay, we can run this program. Okay, right. So we have the application is running, you can see in the emulator, so that virtual device, and when you click, we have to validate this input and we have to store in the database, okay. So which database we have created already? We have created a database called students.db, and we created a table called students. In this table we are going to store this name, register number, CGPA, okay, right. So how will you store? We are going to use this particular function, insert student, okay. So where we have to write this logic, so okay, we have to go to this button, okay. So let's go to the elevated button, and here we have a gesture called on pressed. So first we need to validate everything. So using form key dot validate, so form dot current state, and if it is not null, we have to call validate, okay. So when you give validate, and if you click this, it will show the error. Look at this, it will show the error. So once you run the program, you can just save it, okay. So it will reflect in the output, okay, this particular device, okay, right. So now inside we have to store every data. First we need to store the student name. Name is equal to how will you store the data? So every text form field we connected with the how will you store the data, like text editing controller. Every controller we have, name controller, system controller, CGP controller, okay. So let's what we can do is we can read all the data from this name controller dot text. So we'll get name. Similarly we are going to store register number, also name. So we string. So we can call register number controller dot text, right, and followed by we need a double data type for storing CGPA details. We have to use double dot parse, okay. We have to parse this. So from CGPA controller dot text, okay. So now we have data. Now we have to store, okay, store in SQLite, okay, store in SQLite database, okay. So that code we have to write. So first we need to access this database helper, okay. This particular database helper we have to access. So how will you get? We have a static variable. Look at this, we have a static variable called instance, okay. We have a static variable called instance. So we can use database helper dot instance, okay. It's very simple. We can use database helper. Okay, before that, before storing the data, we can okay, this way we can form. Before storing, actually that is a correct way. Before storing, first we have to create the object. Okay, create student object. Using student, we can create student of variable student. Inside we have to pass all these values. Okay, we have to pass the values, right? So we can use in this way. Okay, so name colon name, and the next data is register number colon register number, and CGPA colon CGPA. Okay, right? So now, okay, student is actually unknown, so for that first we have to import this student. Okay, first we need to import student.dart. Okay, we have a data model, right? So data model we need to import, so then only we can access it. Okay, so now we can able to create object. Student object is ready. Okay, now this student object only we are going to insert. Okay, to insert, first we need to create access this this particular database helper. Okay, so for inserting we have to use, first we need to call await, and database helper we have to use database helper class and dot instance. Okay, dot that function insert students. It's very simple. Okay, in one line we can insert. After inserting, we can show a successful message by using a snack bar. Okay, so we can use a snack bar by using scaffold messenger dot off. So there is a context is needed, so dot show snack bar function. So inside show snack bar function we can create the snack bar. Okay, so how will you create snack bar? And the content. Okay, so content should be text widget. Okay, student details saved. So like this we can complete. Okay, so when you click the button, we are going to collect the data and it will be saved. Okay, like this, right? So after saving, we are going to display the data. Okay, so after saving we can display the data also, right? So in order to display the data, after this button we are going to add another component. Okay, we are going to add another component called list view. Okay, we are going to create a list view. So for that we can use expanded. So expanded is used for occupy the entire remaining space. The entire remaining space I am going to use it for the list. Okay, so inside we can create a list view. Okay, so like this we can type, right? So we can create a list view. So we are going to use list view dot builder. Okay, we are going to use list view dot builder. So already we practice list view, right? You can just go through that previous video, how to use list view dot builder. And first one is item count is needed. So here item count is actually we are going to retrieve all the records, right? We are going to retrieve all the records and we are going to store it in a variable. Okay, so for that we are going to create one variable called list of student object, and this list of student object is array. So students, it contains students. It's a empty array. Initially it is empty array. We are going to fill this particular empty array. We are going to generate this array from the database, right? So how will database, how will you retrieve from? For that we have to use this function. Okay, so there is a function called fetch or read all students. Okay, so it will return a list of student data, read all students. Okay, so this function we are going to call. Okay, for that we can create a separate function here, void a private function show all students. And this must be async function, and inside we can fetch all the students. We can fetch using await function. Again database helper. So the same way we have to call instance database helper instance dot read all students, that function. Okay, and this function we have to call using await. Okay, so that is the correct way. And now we can update this particular state. So we have a state called students, right? So this state we can update using set state. Okay, we can update underscore students equal to this particular students. Okay, so that's all. We are reading all the data by using this function database helper. So it's very simple. See, database helper is a class name, and this instance we are using, there will be only one instance since we are using private constructor, and that instance dot read all students. So this will execute this particular query. Okay, query function is executed, and you will get all the records in a list of student object. Okay, so that list we are updating in UI by using set state. Okay, right? So this variable is updated now. Okay, so by using this. Okay, now when this function will be called, that is very important. Okay, this function should be called whenever we save new data. Whenever we save new data, we have to call this show all students record. Okay, so after showing snack bar, we have to call that particular function show all students record. So show all students, this function we have to call, where we are calling in this particular on pressed. Okay, so here also in the on press, after saving, okay, here we are inserting a new student record. After saving the record, we are retrieving all the existing records, and by using this show all function. Okay, so this show all function will be called, and it will read all the records, and it will update this particular list. Okay, now the data is available in this array. So now let's go back to this list view dot builder. Now we can set the item count like this. Item count we can, how will we make, underscore students dot length. We can get the particular array. Okay, so here we have a underscore student list is there, right? So from that array we are getting the length. Okay, so next we are going to create the item builder. Okay, so in the item builder we are supposed to display all the records. Okay, using a list tile. Okay, so already we have practice list tile. Okay, so here we are going to get two things. One is context, and followed by the index of every item. Okay, index of every item we are going to take, and we are going to create a right. So here inside, first we need to access a particular student, first student. Okay, first student data we have to access using underscore students index. Okay, first you always index starts from 0, right? So get the first student data and return. Okay, return. How will you return? You have to return as a list tile widget, where we can display like leading, main title, subtitle, and all we can display, right? So first we are going to display as a circle. We are going to display we can display icon. So for that leading we can use, and we can use a circle avatar. Okay, in circle avatar we can display one child, and the child like first letter of every student, we can display. Okay, so how will you use student dot name within brackets 0. Okay, so this is a first letter will be access. Okay, so we are getting one in the leading, we are displaying the circle avatar. Circle avatar means circle, first letter will be coming. Okay, and main title. Okay, the next is a title. So title is the main title, where we are going to display the student name. Okay, so student name we are going to display using a text widget. Okay, so student dot name. Okay, and followed by subtitle we are going to use. In subtitle we are going to display remaining data. So remaining we have register number and CGPA, so we can display using a text widget. So remaining is register number, and followed by this particular string formatter. Okay, student dot name followed by comma CGPA. So next we are going to display CGPA also. Use the formatter CGPA, right? So here we have all the data, right? So the circle over there, in any way you can display. Okay, so I'm just following this order. Okay, so now we have to save it, and let's run this project. You just click rerun this project. Okay, so let us test some data, like for example John. So ERK20 CS 2001, CGPA 7.8, save data, and here you can see the data is successfully saved. We are getting snack bar also, and after saving we are using this list view builder, and we are collecting all the data from the database, and we are able to see display here. Okay, so next we will display, we can delete this, and we can store some other data, for example David, and this is 2 or 3 8.1. so now you can click this. So when you click, student details saved in this snack bar you can see, and the data is also displayed. Okay, so like this we can store few more data, like Joel 5 9.2, and we can save this. Okay, so this is about how to store the information about a particular student in a SQLite database. Okay.